Hi, welcome to another video. Today we will take a look at Sony's upcoming console, the PlayStation 5. Mark Cerny, the lead system architect at Sony, recently talked about some interesting details about the upcoming console. It might just be the big leap in graphics and compute performance that we need in the gaming industry. But before we get into its detail, we need to take a look at previous generation consoles, most importantly their weak points, which will help us understand how this new generation console might just change many aspects of the gaming. Let's take a look at the previous generation of console in order to explain the upgrades we will see in the next generation console. PS4 were released on November 15, 2013. It had a very weak CPU combined with a decent GPU compared to PC market at the time of the release. CPU is the most important factor to look at here. We know that the console market is huge, so games are usually built with a console first and PC later approach. GPU was severely bottlenecked by CPU in games. For those of you who don't know, bottleneck in hardware terms is basically talking about CPU and GPUs and how one of them is being held back by the other. We can't just pair a very slow CPU with a very fast GPU. CPU needs to process the game instructions and then send the required commands to the GPU. If CPU is slow, GPU will just sit idle most of the time, waiting for the CPU to send commands and vice versa. Now, same is the case here, where we have a very slow CPU with a fast GPU in the previous generation consoles. Now, having that out of the way, let's get back to our topic, PS5. I had to clarify that CPU issue with the previous generation because the CPU that we are getting here is quite powerful, even in terms of today's PC. We are looking at a 8-core Zen 2 CPU. Zen 2 is a next generation CPU architecture from AMD that goes head to head with the current Intel lineup in gaming performance and outperforms Intel in workstation workloads. In case of PS4 and PS5, it's almost like comparing an i5 first or second generation with the i7 8th or 9th generation. The jump in performance of the CPU is absolutely huge. This might fundamentally change the way games are produced. We might see games with more realistic and polished physics, more NPCs or characters to interact with, more intensive boss fights, and more number of players in a single map. PS5 will feature an AMD GPU based on Navi architecture. Not much is known about Navi, but we certainly confirmed it from multiple sources that it is much more likely to be a GCN based. The GPU in PS4 is also GCN based as well. GCN or Graphic Core Next is the codename for AMD's GPU architecture that was released in 2011 and was the architecture for every GPU onwards. GCN provides more compute or raw performance than previous generation. That's why we see AMD's GPUs being used for Bitcoin mining. Well, let's not get into Bitcoin mining here. But the architecture might make it easy to shift over the development from PS4 to PS5. We also got the confirmation of ray tracing as well. You might have heard about it by now. Basically, ray tracing is possible using software on majority of modern GPUs, but its performance is less likely to be satisfactory. Ray tracing is basically the way lights are used in a game. Ray tracing traces the path of a light and every object it hits and reflects off, making it look more like the real world. Ray tracing isn't something new. It's been around long before, but it requires a very powerful hardware. We have seen new Nvidia cards that natively support ray tracing in hardware. Nvidia also recently enabled their GTX graphic cards, the card released without any hardware level support for ray tracing, to be able to perform ray tracing. We have seen very poor performance on those cards, which showed that ray tracing is very demanding technology that will more likely require a hardware implementation to be able to perform well on consoles. Now, Mark Cerny confirmed that PS5 will have ray tracing, so we might just be looking at a hardware level implementation, although it isn't confirmed yet. We recently saw a ray tracing demo from Crytek Engine using Vega 56, a graphic card from AMD which doesn't have a hardware level ray tracing implementation. The demo looks promising, so we might just see something like this Crytek demo on PS5 using software based ray tracing. Right now, looking at PC game released that take advantage of ray tracing only run well on Nvidia's new RTX cards. Typically above RTX 2070 or RTX 2080 tier cards from Nvidia, which are quite expensive. AMD Zen 2 and Navi based GPU are going to be released this year for PC. That might give us more in-depth detail about PS5 hardware. Another massive upgrade over the older generations is inclusion of SSDs, solid state drive, which is way faster than traditional hard drive included with PS4 and previous generations. Now, how can this affect gaming? Well, we will see far less loading times and allow faster world rendering. There is no word on the memory speed and size, but we might see 16 or 20 GB or more of memory size. Overall, we are looking at a huge performance increase in every aspect of hardware. Now, the most important thing that comes to mind is what's the price gonna be. Looking at the hardware, it's not gonna be cheap to manufacture, that's for sure. But Sony can't afford to sell consoles at a high price as they did with the PS3 launch. If the PS5 is released at even $500, it's gonna be hugely cheaper than building a PC for gaming. Another perk we will see is that the architecture is very similar to PS4. So PS5 will have backward compatibility from start. So all the PS4 games will work on PS5 at launch. We might also see enhancement of multiple PS4 titles at launch, kinda like what we see with PS4 and PS4 Pro. Same titles but playing on PS4 Pro with a few enhancements and higher resolution. So what are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments below and I'll catch you guys in the next video.